So you said you teased that you're gonna show us some old concept art, some old prototypes, maybe.
Yeah.
We can look at
So
that.
you have seen the trailer. I think you can we can show you like what was the vision at first. It was in one of the first key art that we have done. So a lot more cartoony.
Yeah.
There was also that idea of a captain was running the ship, and it wasn't us, the captain. So we need to follow its orders. So, for example, wiping wiping the boat of dust. So like your life bar was the satisfaction of that captain. So that was the early concept, but we felt that creating a roguelike, you need to have a more it's hard to be like a casual roguelike, and the art style was mostly driven toward that casual audience. So we are still cartoony, but a bit darker with the new style of Ship of Foes.
Okay. Okay. I'm curious to see how that cartoony transformed into dark. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was the first key art that we have done that was pitched to publishers, and the first time we tried to sign a deal for creating that game, we didn't have any prototype at all. We had a Previz animation video that was showing like the feel of what could be Ship of Foes, but it was no gameplay at all. So I think we can show that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Over here. Okay, nice.
So that has been done by Etienne, and it was only animation, but we get a kind of the vibe of what Ship of Foes would have been. It was also in the isometric style, but we find it easier to create the game in a more classical orthographic view for the animation and everything. So those are the kind of decisions that we have made during the production. It was our first big project, so we needed to decide what our team is able to do, and we feel like this is like the spark, like one of the first idea.
Also, a fun fact about these characters: those were the earliest version of Ink and Todd, who are actually the two main characters in the game. And as you can see, Todd had a little cap on his head. And here I have the hoodie. I have the official Fika hoodie, and the logo that we have is Todd with a little cap on his head.
Nice.
So it's
maybe we can full screen Daniel so we can see that properly.
It can show my hoodie.
There we go.
There's the old Todd right there with the cap. So we kept his design, his oldest design for our merch. So yeah.
Amazing. So let's get back to the art. I have a question about the this was Etienne. Did you just do this in Photoshop? How did you develop this animation?
I was about to talk about this this clip later, but I can say that right now it's all hand-drawn animation, frame by frame.
Yeah.
So it took an incredible, like the clip is so
it's quite
really smart. No, not smart, small. But then I just think about the amount of time it took me to do all of this, and I'm like, yeah, you're gonna see later on when I talk about animation why it wasn't the right decision to go hand drawn.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I did it in the background are in Photoshop, and then the animation is done in a software called Toon Boom Harmony.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but it looks like it was totally worth it for the team. I'm sure the team kept looking to this, and I'm sure it was very motivational as well.
It was a great tool to convince people, and we took example from. I remember me and Ariane, which is the art director for the game. We saw the XCOM. They did the same thing for their first game, XCOM 1, I guess, and it's called a previs. So pre-visualization of what would look like the gameplay, but it's not gameplay. It's fake. It's all fake. And then we were like, what if we do the same thing? And I think it worked.
Yeah, it worked because in the end we signed with a publisher, which is Team 17, to help us ship that game and releasing it to the market. But it was really practical because at that point in time we were October 2018, I think. And no gameplay at all. And now what we are seeing on the screen is like the first really early prototype of the game. So that's our boat.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's great. It's a raft, but it's great.
Yeah, it's a raft. We have a texture for the water, and we see one of the first enemies of the game. Mini crabs, and they were just like moving toward that ship, and it feels like really a tower defense game, and we are not really exploring. Enemies are coming at you in waves, and those were like the first thing that we have developed, the different systems. We see also other type of trajectory that we try to use. We have seen the lobbing trajectory of projectile.
Yeah,
it's something that we had removed from the game, because even if it's look cool when we see the prototype, it was something a bit it didn't feel that great to control that kind of trajectory with a controller in your hands. Yeah,
I see.
And so we see a bigger enemies, upgrade that we put directly on our cannon that we have to loot in the ocean. And another thing that we just saw a few moments ago, and I think we will see it again, was to wipe off some dirt that is on the ship.
Yeah.
So it was the captain's command, and on the left side of the screen we see the health bar, but it's not really. When you take damage, it affects that health bar, but the satisfaction of your captains was mainly the representation of that bar. So yeah, here.
I see. Okay.
Current order, clean the dirty tires.
Clean the dirt. Nice.
But it was
another fun fact: the green crabs were called booger crabs, and
Nice.
they dealt damage in form of dirty tiles.
Oh, I see. Okay, so that dirt actually damages the boat. Disappoints the captain. Yeah.
It disappoints the captain. Yeah.
Okay. And this was all local at the time?
Yeah, it was only local. We
Yeah.
started developing the game only local multiplayer, and we added the online afterward. I think Marc-Antoine will comment on that a bit later on in the presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, with the COVID and all, it was a natural move to go online because local multiplayer was not happening anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, something that we are seeing here also is it's quite cool. It was a mechanic that you can ignite a patch of oil in fire, and it will spread the fire, so do damage over time to the enemies.
Very cool.
It was mostly practical with that lob shot, and another part that was a bit weird is you are moving on the ship, and if the patch are not moving, it's quite strange to see that look. So
That's true.
So when we started adding the water movement to those patch of oils, we found that it was not fun to play like that. So
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
That makes sense.
So I think we can move on to show gameplay a bit more advanced of Ship of Fools. Yeah.
And actually, I do have a question. When I look at that, I can't help. You talk about roguelike inspirations, but I can't help but feel a little bit of Overcooked in there as well. I don't know if you looked at that, because one person goes and cleans while the other person is shooting and all of that. Did that have any?
Yeah, I think the initial hook of Ship of Fools was Overcooked mixed with roguelike elements, but instead of cooking dishes, you are shooting with cannons, so it became something quite different in the end.
Yes.
So this is not the final look of the ship. It was a prototype with the really more advanced. It was close to our I would say first vertical slice. A couple of things had changed, like the look of the boat, but we see other things in the gameplay. We see the reflect mechanic, things that have been created along the way. Something that is quite interesting here is the look of the map that is really different of what it is right now. And this was more a traditional map that we see in a lot of roguelikes. I think the main one I have in my head right now is Slay the Spire, where you have those choices to do to progress towards a final goal. And something that we felt was missing from that map design is mostly that that you feel like you are on a rail, and you technically in the game you are sailing your ship, and you're not sailing at all. So we felt it was a bit odd to have that kind of map for Ship of Foes, and that led to something else that I think we can show right now.
Yeah. Let's get to that.
Yeah. So this was the previous map. So we see really clearly the influence of Slay the Spire with the different encounters and islands to visit, and at the end you have to reach the final boss, destroy it to go to the other sector of the game. We can also see that there was a day countdown, so you had like 3 days to save the archipelago from the aquapocalypse. So that was one of the ideas. So it was like a 3-run process to complete, and it became only 1 run because we felt it was a bit repetitive to start again with your same equipment but go further. So we decided like having the classic formula of only one run to try to save the archipelago was a bit best fit for the game. Okay. So this was the old map, but the new map that we want to talk about is...
Switch to that now.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh.
There it is. Yeah.
So we decided to change to X's for that map, because it's like the same kind of principle as the older map, but this one gives you a much bigger feeling of exploration, because from any point on the map, if you can go forward, you see something forward, normally you can reach that point.
Yeah. So these were the earliest prototypes of Ship of Foes, and now it looks like this. And so that's why we've came up with a 3D style, but we've kept an orthographic camera to make sure that the game looks 2D in a 3D environment. So we had to use a lot of tricks to make sure that works. So as you can see here in my scene view, the camera is looking down at the ship in a 45 degrees angle, and it's for the whole game the camera angle doesn't change. And we use an orthographic camera to make sure that the tricks we use are unseen. For example, let me show you one of the tricks we use to make sure it looks 2D. The ship is actually quite twisted when we look at in some angle. So as you can see here, if I look at this ship from a straight angle, we see that it's quite messed up.
I see.
But when we look at the ship in a 45 degrees angle, everything comes into place and it looks straight as an arrow. But
this is quite the optical illusion, I have to say.
Yeah,
I'm trying to understand what's going on. Yeah, I'm trying to understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's quite an optical illusion, because as you can see here, the barnacles are quite stretched up, and the thing here is quite messed up. So when you look at it in this angle, it becomes really straight and beautiful. So
how do you do that? So do you start from the stretched, and you must start obviously from the 45 and the rest becomes stretched, and so can you explain that a bit more, and why this was needed?
To be honest, I'm not the guy who did this. I'm just the guy who placed the visuals at the right place. Nice. But it was one of our tech artist jobs to make sure that the boat looks great in this angle, so he had to deform it manually in his 3D engine.